So if you do want to get in touch around any events with Travel Massive Edinburgh, we'd really like to hear from you. And that's just a brief introduction from me and from Suze and Katie. Katie will handle our Q&A towards the end after we've heard from all our speakers. So if anyone wants to put any question to us, I think there's some comments in the chat box already. We'll be happy to answer them. So I'm going to hand over to Susan Russell from Underbelly, so to talk a bit about the audience engagement and impact from Edinburgh's Hogmanay, which went completely digital for the first time. And Suze is going to give a top line view of audience impact and engagement. Thanks, Suze.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everybody. I think I've met some of you at previous events, and welcome to those that might be completely new to Travel Massive. In my day job, I head up the marketing team for Underbelly, who some of you are probably more familiar with. We run a major fringe venue during August. Well, we normally do in a normal year. And we also run Edinburgh's Christmas and Edinburgh's Hogmanay. We spent a lot of time over the summer and early autumn last year working with all the major public agencies and organisations to see if a physical Hogmanay could take place. As everyone's very aware, the last year has been very difficult for everybody, not least those working in tourism, hospitality and events. And it became really clear early September time that an actual physical gathering of any sort in Edinburgh in December really wouldn't be possible. We cancelled the traditional street party back in July, but we were still hoping there could be some moment for everybody to gather in December. So our plans for Hogmanay last year actually came together quite quickly. We worked with an amazing group of creative artists to pull together what was then titled Farewell, which was a 3-part show over 3 nights. It started with our commissioning of Jackie Kay, our Scots Macker, on a really amazing and emotive 3-part poem. She was really looking at the world that we lived in before last year, then looking at everything everybody had gone through in 2020, and then very much looking at hope for the future. I'm going to try and share my screen and just show you a couple of clips. The volume might not be very loud, but it's really just to let you guys see, if you hadn't seen it, what happened. Spare with me 2 seconds. So the first part of Farewell was looking at the past, and we took Jackie's words in terms of her poem and commissioned a Fife-based artist called Gary Wilson, who really looked at her words and considered how you could interpret them visually. And then we commissioned a company called Celestial, who are a drone-based company, to then bring this piece to life. So it was Scotland's first ever swarm drone show, and it was one of the largest that's ever taken place in the UK. You might have seen in the news that London also did something similar, but we were very much ahead of the game. And the last piece of the puzzle was commissioning some new music to accompany the piece. So we worked with a Skye-based Celtic fusion band called Nightworks, who some of you guys might have heard of. So what I'm about to show you is really the culmination of Jackie's words with Gary's illustrations and Nightworks music. We had various narrators. We had a really strong, stellar Scottish cast. David Tennant was our headline actor. We also worked with Siobhan Redmond, who some of you might know. And then we brought together some young Scottish voices, some of whom speak Gaelic throughout the piece. We can share the links afterwards, but I'll just show you a couple of clips of it.
This air has heather and malt on its breath as it sighs, puffed out after a year of death. Under the blue mask of its flag, the saltire's been a warning cross. Dinna come too near.
So that was very much the start of the show. The next piece I'm going to show you was a clip that we actually released in advance of the show. One of the biggest challenges we had with this was that we couldn't do anything in Edinburgh that would generate a crowd, because obviously with COVID and the world we're living in, we couldn't have any kind of gathering. So in part, we actually ended up filming in the Highlands. We went up to an estate just north of Fort William called Achnacarry, where we were resident there for 4 nights. So everything I'm about to show you is real. The drones are completely real. The shots in the Highlands and in Edinburgh are real, but we didn't actually have the drones in Edinburgh at any time. So we worked with a company in the Far East to actually bring it all together in post-production. So a lot of people, when they saw it, were questioning, you know, could they see it the next night? Were they going to go out on the doorstep and be able to watch it? Or didn't think it was actually real? Everything I'm showing you is completely real. But this clip is actually showing, again, some footage of the Highlands and a stag. We released some of the clips in advance to generate some press interest, and the shot of the stag with the Highland mountains behind it went everywhere. It's been on Australian TV, it went on NBC News in America, it's literally gone everywhere. The brilliant thing for us is that it really was a picture postcard of Scotland that we were able to show people at a time when no one's actually able to travel.
So candlelight the night sky and dress the long tables. Let us remember and never forget that we won't let our hopes fizzle out.
Someone hears the bereavement song through till dawn, and someone reads the lost stories of the stars. They pull their slow oars through the clouds, and every old hello has become a goodbye. And every new year makes a brand new cry. And every new year confronts an empty sky.
So that was from part 1. Part 2 then moved into Edinburgh. So we actually got to see some of Edinburgh's skyline, and this was when we moved the story into the current present.
There are seeds on the air, which will be trees. Choreography on the air, danced by bees.
There's all left, made broad by 1 billion stars. The pure white of Venus, and the red of Mars.
And then on Hogmanay itself, so this piece ran out from the 29th through to Hogmanay on the 31st. And on the 31st, we showcased the future. So this was very much about Jackie and her poem looking to a better world, a new dawn, essentially. This piece is, I shouldn't say it, but it's my favourite out of the 3 parts. Because of the music at the start, which I'm just about to play you, it's really emotive. So I tend to cry every time I watch it. I won't this evening.
You can this night. Here we cried Hogmanay, a rhyme for the French of the homme est né, the man is born. So the new year's born at midnight.
Good riddance to the last page torn from this scunnered year. And though we can't first foot with lumps of coal, black bun, a rassie malt,
or join together in a ring of horns, singing old acquaintance fit to break the band,
we send out hope into the Scottish air, breathed out by widows, workers, wains, by those who care, by those who vote, shout, march to ring the changes at the bells, who've clocked the dangers.
we say was like us, singing Auld Lang Syne. We shake.
And then the last little clip I just wanted to show you was how the piece concluded. So the story comes full fold and it ends up outside, well, on top of the Forth Rail Bridge. and the final phrase is "We are one 2021." So for us, it was a key kind of midnight moment photo shot.
Here's an ad, the basement choreographers and ad, to shilling the dance, from Hollywood of women, the billion rail, the yow Venus, like a steric Paris.
So that's really just to give you a little bit of an idea as to how Farewell all kind of came together. There were 150 drones used for that full piece. The brilliant thing for us was that although we couldn't shout about it very far in advance, when we did have the footage in the can, so to speak, and were able to talk about it and showcase it, momentum really grew quite quickly. Much to the point that we told everybody that at 7 o'clock on the 29th, you know, go to edinburghshogmanay.com and watch the first piece. What we should have said was, and this is a key learning when it comes to the use of technology for events, say from 7 o'clock, or the fact that it would be available throughout the evening, because our website actually crashed on the first night, which was extremely stressful for all involved. Just due to the sheer volume of people that were really keen to see the full piece. To date, the 3 parts have been viewed by over 6.2 million people, and that's direct views through our channels, either through Facebook, Instagram, or on our websites or YouTube. In terms of its impact, in terms of media coverage, we actually secured about 650 pieces of coverage. When we were looking at targets for this year, we really had no idea how widespread, you know, people would be interested in this event. So the fact that we secured, I think it was about 130 pieces of broadcast coverage around the world, was absolutely phenomenal. As much as it being about positioning Edinburgh's Hogmanay, it obviously positions Scotland as a key destination for people to consider a trip. So yeah, the reception's just been unbelievable. The number of comments, shares on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram has been amazing. Because it's quite an emotive piece, and looking at the year gone by and the year ahead after what the whole world has gone through, everybody just got really behind it, and, you know, we're sharing where they'd watched it from, how they'd sent it on to friends in Australia. We've had over, I think it's over 50 countries around the world have watched it. So it's been a really amazing project to work on. Lots of learnings in the new kind of COVID world that we live in. And yeah, just lots of potential opportunities, I think, for events in the future as we move back into the world of all things live.
Thanks, Suze. That was great. Yeah, and I was a fan as well, sharing it with every friend and family I could across the world. So thanks very much, and I'm sure you might have some questions about the tech. So now we're going to hear from Josh, my colleague Josh Ryan-Saha from Traveltech for Scotland. Josh, you have 15 minutes.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute that. Can you just, Leslie, can you just confirm you can see my screen?
I can see it, yeah.
Great. So yeah, thanks so much for inviting me back to Travel Massive. I think this is the 3rd Travel Massive event I've been a part of as a speaker, so I'm really delighted. But I just wanted to quickly comment on Susan, what you just showed there. And I think, first of all, it's amazing. It's it is really, really amazing. And also, it's sometimes, it's big sort of leap in what you think is actually possible. And it's also amazing, interesting case study in how technology has sort of been used across different sectors. Now it's sort of diffused out. I can remember reading about how drones are being used for transplant surgery, and they've been whizzed across the sky with organs in, and now using it in amazing events. Of course, it had the sort of military starting point, but I don't know. I think there's an interesting point here around how travel technology or tourism technology can start looking broader at different sort of sources of inspiration. And I think I just thought that was amazing. Perhaps not dipping too much into the military technology first, but anyway, So yeah, and what I'm going to talk a bit about today is sort of Traveltech for Scotland, what it is very briefly. I suspect many of you know what it is now, or at least we hope so. And then going into a little bit of what we've done, and then where we're going, and two things in particular. One, which is on the theme of today, the community, and then the second being around the directory, which we've recently launched as well. So first of all, this is me. One thing I should also flag up is that I think we're blatantly breaking advertisement rules now by putting a picture of me pre-pandemic, and the one that Leslie shared with the event, I think that's like 10 years ago. It's just not me anymore. But anyway, who am I? So I am the director at Traveltech for Scotland and a colleague of Leslie. I also work at the University of Edinburgh on data-driven innovation for tourism and festivals. I've got a background at the Data Lab, where I led on skills development work, and then some other interesting things, sort of working at an organisation called Nesta, and before that in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that's who I am. And what is Traveltech for Scotland? Well, Traveltech for Scotland is a cluster organisation. So it is a community, essentially, trying to bring together all the Traveltech businesses in Scotland, or businesses that are in travel and tourism that are using technology. And our aspiration is to make Scotland one of the best places to come to be involved, work, use travel technology. So what is travel technology? Well, it is how technology-enabled companies are offering services and product in travel and tourism. So it's not just the travel tech businesses themselves, it is more than that. And why Scotland? Well, the first thing is it's host to probably, I think, is one of the biggest search companies in travel and tourism, Skyscanner. Its technology sector has really expanded in the last decade, and it's host to wonderful AI and data research and a huge host of amazing software engineers and software developers from financial services across to the university sector. And of course, it is a world-class destination, and so many different parts of Scotland are famous around the world for its tourism. Now, crucially, and if there's any message I'd want you to go away with today, it is we are actually already a travel tech cluster. Not only Skyscanner, not only some of the sort of scaling travel tech companies like Travel Nest or Foresight, who are on the call today, but it's already a large number of companies that are travel tech businesses. And we're going to hear from one very exciting one later, so I'm going to be quick, so I want to hear that. So what are we here for? And the reason why 4 is in our name? Well, we want to make Scotland the place to be for travel tech, but of course right now is unparalleled crisis for the sector. And what we want to do is try and see how and try and make very clear and apparent the ways that technology can benefit this moment, but in particular the recovery. And I think that's where it's going to be most important. So I briefly mentioned before that it's not just for travel tech businesses, but it's also for those that are potentially thinking about pivoting into travel tech, but also for tourism and hospitality organisations, both here and abroad, that should be or are consumers of travel technology. I'm going to pass by that 1 second. What we've seen in the last year, 10 months, has been a big flurry and a sort of digital rush in travel technology. I think there's 3 areas I've identified here that we saw, especially over the summer, but online booking being boosted, virtual experiences like the amazing one we've just seen, and contactless technology. And here are just a few of the organisations based in Scotland that are meeting that need. And there's more than that. But I think one of the things we've seen is that Scottish-based tech companies are pivoting themselves to meet the requirements of the moment. The other thing to mention, and another critically important part around travel tech for Scotland, and is around the other crisis. And sometimes it is difficult to remember it in the midst of a crisis we're in, that we're actually in the midst of another significant crisis. And this is why we're absolutely delighted to have Elaine speaking after me. And that is, of course, climate change and the need for sustainability. And I think if there's one thing that is going to be at the heart of the travel tech cluster is around how technology can bring travel and tourism forward, but within this crisis, and trying to remedy it. The other areas, of course, which are sometimes it's easy to forget in the current crisis, of course, is how technology can enable better community ownership around tourism. And also, I was having a great chat with someone yesterday, which is, how do we think of some of these tourism businesses, not just as tourism businesses, but those that cater for local tourists, local communities as well, and how technology can enable it? And we've got some companies. I think there's a company that we're working with called Vocalista that is looking at some of these issues as well. And another thing to think about when we're thinking about travel tech is, where can we start building a comparative advantage? Now, I think we already have a few comparative advantages. I think you can see that with some of the actually accommodation booking and management and various things like that. But 3 areas we think have got potential are golf, events and festivals, of course, and then whiskey and food and drink. And if they're already a comparative advantage for our tourism economy, how can we make them a comparative advantage for our travel tech economy? So now we get into the meat of what we want to talk about, really, and that is the ways that Travel Tech for Scotland's working, and 2 in particular. One being community, which is the theme of today. So myself and Leslie, we've been meeting with an awful lot of travel tech businesses, both here and abroad, probably more than 120 in the last three or 4 months. And it's great having these introductions, great really understanding and start mapping where these companies are. But to be honest, it's got its limitations. It's got limitations because what me and Leslie can't do is meet with everyone constantly. We can't, and we certainly can't answer everyone's questions and be the font of knowledge. Well, Leslie can, but I can't. And we want to really hit a bit of momentum. We want to be able to start creating this as a community rather than a collection of individual one-to-ones. And what I think one of the key things that I've seen the benefit already of Travel Tech for Scotland has been where we hear a challenge or a problem and we say, we know someone else who knows the answer to that because I don't. And some of those introductions have already been really, really powerful. So what we want to do is create an online digital community, a digital platform, which we're actually creating right now, for people to meet each other online, of course, but to crucially have those private or open conversations with people who might have the answer to the questions they have, a safe space to put forward a problem or an issue or an idea, and have a really friendly and wonderful community coming back and helping answer some of those questions. So it could be from travel tech to travel tech business. You know, how do we find the investment we need? How did you get started? What incubator accelerator do you recommend looking at? All of that sort of questions. That's what we'd hope could be fielded there. I think from tourism to tourism business, which may be which supplier have you used? How do you get your technology stack set up? I've had a lot of conversations with attractions and galleries in particular around, well, okay, we've got our ticketing, we've got our catering, and we've got our CRM, and how do you get it all working? And which provider do you use, which works best here? You know, all of that sort of stuff. You know, myself and Leslie don't have all of that experience. It only comes from where you can meet the people who've done it before and have those questions. And we want the community to be that place. And I think critically as well, it's about, you know, we had some really amazing Travel Massive events in the last couple of years. I really enjoyed the last one we did, where we're looking at data. And, you know, the reason we enjoyed it was you had the ability to sort of riff off each other and find out new things. And we hope that there will be places almost like crucibles to get new ideas that are forming. And to be honest, this new community we form, this digital one, we want it to be a bit of an experiment, and hopefully it'll also be a place, a new crucible for ideas and innovative chats and hopefully new teams forming. So that's what the community is going to be looking at. So the second part is the marketplace. Now, hopefully you would have seen on LinkedIn and various other things what we've got in the new Travel Tech directory. Now, this came from the wonderful digital tourism toolkit that was created by Karen Gidland and Megan McCurran, and in the first iteration through Gemma Reed and Tyann Scardini, all great tourism tourism professionals who saw that there was a big gap in trying to get a real clear and well articulated understanding of what sort of Traveltech business is going to be useful for them. So we created as a group a new directory, which I certainly recommend checking out, and it has been split up into the different types of subsector in tourism that you can look at and check out. So I'd recommend having a look at that and hopefully finding something that might be useful for you. So the other three ways that we're working is around market intelligence, innovation, and then hopefully building a bit of reputation for Scotland as well. I'm going to quickly touch upon on the intelligence part, and we're working with Tech Nation at the moment to start mapping out and quantifying the value of Traveltech. And these are just some early figures, but I think the thing to recognise is that Traveltech's massive. It's really big, huge investment in London. You see in the top left-hand corner. In Europe, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, in Germany, an investment there, and this is only the provisional figures. Huge amount of investment, and Scotland needs to be positioned ourselves to really take advantage of that. And I can't wait to hear more from Elaine, because I know that's one of the companies that should be benefiting from some of this sort of investment. I'm going to end it here, apart from just talk a final thing on just innovation and the opportunity to collaborate, not just Traveltech to Traveltech or tourism and Traveltech, but also with universities. And this is just one example of one of the things that has been happening at the university I'm based, Edinburgh, which is starting looking at data and for the moment trying to develop a platform to help people understand where and which countries to potentially look at and to target marketing for the future. So a key thing to mention is that this is being funded and supported very much by Scottish Enterprise and the European Social Fund, and is hosted, of course, at the University of Edinburgh's Edinburgh Futures Institute. So thank you ever so much for listening to me, and we're going to be launching this community really soon. We want you all to be a part. If you do want to join the community and you're not yet on our newsletter or something like that, pop myself or Leslie an email. So thanks ever so much for your time, and yeah, now looking forward to hearing the next presentation.
Thank you, Josh. And now hopefully Elaine is around and ready, Elaine Ford from Electrek Explorer, to share what she's doing in her very exciting startup.
Travel Massive community, hope to connect with many of you here. A little bit about my background. I'm a trained ecologist passionate about adventure, travel, exploration and protection of the natural world. I've been working in environmental protection for 8 years, and I'm super excited to use technology to develop a green travel business. I'll be presenting Electrek Explorer. I started Electrek Explorer to be part of the solution towards a low-carbon economy. We provide tools to promote low-carbon electric vehicle travel and ecotourism in Scotland. We are a startup currently hosted by the Ordnance Survey's Geovation Business Incubator in partnership with Registers of Scotland. You're stranded. Your electric car battery has run out before you've reached your destination. This will cost a fortune and take hours for a truck to lift my car. Range anxiety. It's 2 words you hear from everybody when talking about electric cars. How far can you go in a charge? How long does it take to recharge? What happens if you run out of charge? Range anxiety is one of the biggest barriers for transitioning to electric vehicles. The problem is, we don't have reliable data points that puts all the information we need for a trip in one place. Planning a trip is complicated, requiring checking multiple apps for EV chargers, accommodation and activities, especially for longer journeys. That's what we solve and how we want to help tackle the climate crisis. We are working towards being the world's first AI-powered electric vehicle mobile travel app, building an eco-travel marketplace where you can book accommodation, activities and EV hire. Electrek Explorer offers bespoke, high-adventure, low-impact EV road trips. We're keen to promote sustainable tourism, green businesses, and provide exciting EV adventures. Transport causes just over a quarter of UK greenhouse gas emissions, driving climate change. We tackle this by incentivising low-carbon electric travel. EVs clearly have a vital role to play and will also increase the air quality in cities, improving health and well-being. With the ban on new petrol and diesel cars in the UK from 2030, We're focusing on travel planning for EVs. There are currently over 370,000 EV and hybrids in the UK. New EV models are regularly being launched from car manufacturers such as Tesla, Mitsubishi, Nissan, BMW and more. Staycations are on the rise, and preferred travel mode for all visitors in Scotland is own car. The demand for EVs is highest among those aged 18 to 44. This suggests growing demand over the next 20 years for EV tech, and our customers want all electric travel information in one place. Our target customer is adventurous, early adopter, eco-conscious, higher income and domestic travellers. We want to show the market how we can be adventurous and set example for other people using this technology. These people will lead the way to show us that the green electric revolution is possible. We have no direct competitors as we're the first. Our closest competitor is road trippers, however is not for EVs or focus on sustainable travel for the eco-conscious customer. With over 370,000 EV and hybrid users in the UK, we will build the app and provide integrated data for free. We have an agency business model, taking commission on bookings for accommodation, activity and car hire. We are exploring business models to donate a percentage back to nature-based solutions and conservation projects. For example, a percentage per booking to planting trees, coral regeneration or linking to local conservation action. We plan on becoming the #1 electric travel tech company, where customers come to us for the most exciting trips. We also plan electric routes across Europe, expanding our market, as well as expanding to other forms of e-travel and mobility, including e-bikes, e-boats, ferries, and we're looking forward to the development of the electric 4x4s. At the heart of the business is the hotel booking system. I'm currently speaking with the hotel marketplace developer to build the system. We're keen to focus on hotels near EV chargers or with EV chargers available on site. We can also help put partner hotels in touch with charge point installers if you need. High adventure and low impact. We want to raise awareness of the adventure sports to enjoy in Scotland and work closely with activity specialists to help boost tourism for adventure sports and introduce more people to the amazing low-carbon adventures that you can have in Scotland, from kayaking in the Western Isles to mountain biking through the ancient pine forest in the UK's largest national park, Cairngorms, and snorkel trails on the east coast. We will include electric trips that link to booking wildlife tours, hikes, and nature photography workshops. Behind the scenes, we link with local conservation and community projects to provide the latest information on local nature conservation activities for location of customer and service provider. Our Electrek Explorer routes will include locations for local wildlife, fun citizen science projects that people can find out about and get involved in, and photographic viewpoint opportunities. Our Electrek Explorer routes also include booking with spa, yoga and wellness retreats. We're keen to link with local artists and galleries who want to direct people on trips to explore their work. No stress and low carbon. We will provide the EV charge point route solutions. We are super keen to connect, especially with accommodation facilities, activity and experience specialists in Scotland as well as Europe as we develop our EV road trips. We're connecting with EV car companies, manufacturers and EV hire. We're also currently working on a major UK climate change campaign as part of the COP26 with Conservation Without Borders to promote low carbon tourism in Scotland. If you are a green change maker working to mitigate climate change, please get in touch. Thanks for listening. More than happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Elaine. That was really, really interesting and loads of opportunities there for other operators to get involved with Elaine. So thank you.
Yeah, also a big thank you to Traveltech Scotland as well. They've been super supportive since I joined the accelerator in Geovation this summer, from helping with finding funding advice and also like general brainstorming, as well as putting me in touch with the right people. It's been really, really good, and I'm looking forward to connecting more with the Travel Massive community. I've already been reached out by different people, so it's quite exciting to join the community. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome. That's what it's all about, and that's what we love doing. We love making connections and helping people connect. And I think Stuart Walker's here, and he's involved with adventure tourism, and I think it would be good maybe to connect with him and the community that he's working with.
Just sending a message, Leslie.
I could read your mind. Anyway, I just want to thank all of our speakers, Suze, Josh and Elaine, and I'm going to hand over to Katie. And I hope you've got some questions or comments for any of our speakers or for us. We still got some time. Anyone? Katie?
I'd like to know if there's any more drone shows happening or in scheduled for this year.
Not at the moment. I think the team are all still in recovery mode from pulling it all together last year. It's certainly a question we've been asked a lot. One of the things that came up that I wasn't expecting from a comms perspective was the environmental side of it. So, you know, no fireworks versus drones, electric drones. We don't have any immediate plans to do anything in the coming weeks or months, but I'll definitely keep you posted if we are.
Brilliant.
Actually, Suze, I had a question for you as well while you're on, if that's all right. I just wondered, which of the social platforms did you have the most success with in terms of the campaign?
Yeah, interesting question. I'd say Facebook was probably the one that had the most engagements. It's the channel that has the highest number of followers for us. Because it allows you to host video, we actually hosted the 3 parts. And then there's also the full show, the full 15 minutes was shown on it too. We actually also produced a behind the scenes film that's, I think, about 8 minutes long, if anyone's wanting to have a look to hear from some of the creative team about how it all came together. But I think for Facebook, because we've got followers there from all over the world, they really got behind the project and wanted to shout about where they were watching it from. We also created virtual events that people could join.
Yeah.
So just as a comparison, in 2019, when the last street party took place, I think 1,500 people joined that event. And then for Hogmanay that's just gone, we had nearly 8,000 people signed up to join the event. So certainly digital platforms worked amazingly for this project.
Yeah.
And Facebook was, I'd say, our highest engaged one.
And do you think you'll be doing something like that again this year, even if the normal Hogmanay street party could still go ahead? Do you think you'd probably do both?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably still a bit too early for us to make any decisions in terms of what the programme would look like this year. I mean, some of our sister festivals are obviously looking at what they're doing for the summer alone. I don't know if you saw in the news, but the Book Festival have actually moved sites. So they're moving out of Charlotte Square Gardens for a variety of reasons, and they're moving up to the College of Art just off Lorison Place. So I think the pandemic's just been a bit of a moment for events and festivals. I don't want to use the word pivot, but just to think about how they're engaging with audiences.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's daft enough to think that life's going to go back to normal, possibly even by Hogmanay this year. I think events are really looking at a potential hybrid mix of digital and live. I think in the best will of the world, we would love to have a live Hogmanay, to have people in Edinburgh, you know, as well as people not coming to the event. We wholly understand the impact it's had on the industry. You know, hotels, restaurants, cafes, you know, it's just been devastating for so many people. I mean, Edinburgh as a city, like the rest of the world, is going to look extremely different when things do start to reopen. So I think from a creative perspective, the team are already looking at ideas, nothing concrete in place yet. So for this year, and in part, it'll be just to wait to see how quickly we can emerge from what's been going on into something more normal.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And Josh, I had a wee question for you, and I don't know if you're going to be able to answer it. But I know you were speaking about the community which are pulling together, and I just wondered, did you have any sort of timeline as to when that might be? It's a horrible question, isn't it?
Yeah. I think by mid-February we should have that out. It's been something
not long
for a while. Yeah. I think, and it'll be, you know, hopefully quite an informal place, but it's just, like, I think I probably went through it quite a lot of detail, but you know, there's so many conversations we have, and we're just not the right people to answer it. So I think not all the time. So it's just, I think the key thing for us is trying to get as many people on it as quickly as possible, and then start getting some high quality conversations going on.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And then Elaine, I had a question for you as well, if you're still there.
Yeah.
It was just, I just wondered how long it kind of took from you coming up with the idea of your business to it actually becoming a reality.
Well, I'm still working on startup stage. But
yeah.
at the moment, I'm in discussions with technical teams looking at developing the next product. So yeah, that's where I am just now. But it's been with the Geovation Accelerator from concept, like going through all the making sure that there's a demand and that what the customers want, and like doing that initial kind of validation checks was like what was really strong in looking at that and connecting out to different communities. And it's definitely been, well, as a pandemic and a travel business, it's been quite challenging.
Yeah, totally.
So I was just trying to think about the green recovery and thinking about climate change and the whole building back better.
Yeah. That's good. And I think we've got a question there from Kenneth for Josh. How can Scotland get its share of investment in the travel tech sector?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's like, I think I am absolutely not sure, but I have a few ideas. And I think, you know, one of the things we're doing, I mentioned it, is this around this market intelligence work that we're doing with Tech Nation. Now, what we're hoping to have in, hopefully in March, will be a report that starts to map out where investment's coming from. So, you know, where are the big companies in Europe, where are big companies in the world, who are big investors, and seeing where Scotland is, so benchmarking ourselves against that. And then I think it is about understanding which places have done well and seeing which bits we can copy, you know. And but I think there's, you know, there's the thing which I mentioned right at the start is it already is a cluster because of Skyscanner, because of the investment that came off it, all this expertise. It is almost like there's a few things we need to unlock, and we should be able to get it right. So there's a couple of things, of course. I think we just need to talk about it more as a sector, both internally and externally. And by that, I mean internally in Scotland and internationally. Because, you know, everyone talks about fintech, and travel tech is like fun tech, right? That's anyway, sorry. When you don't get a response on okay, I'm glad you're laughing because it helps me feel bad. But anyway, you know, I'm serious about it. It's like Skyscanner is the biggest tech company in Scotland, and it's a travel tech company. And it has had huge investment when it was bought out, and we should be talking about this more as a key critical tech sector. And the fact that you have, you know, Alan Nelson from Foresight's on the call today, which is, you know, an amazing growing company for doing some brilliant things at a critical point in the hotel sector and support we can provide there. You've just heard Elaine, which is, you know, talking about building back better and hitting the crisis that we're going to be, which we're part of already. You can't think of a tech company more perfectly positioned, and with COP26 coming as well. So to simplify what I'm talking about, because I'm now going on, I think there's something about addressing sustainability. There's something about embracing what's going to happen with COP26 this year and saying that technology is going to be a key part of and enabling a sustainable tourism market. But the main thing is just reputation and us all talking about it as a key sector, that travel tech is already a Scottish comparative advantage, and we need to embrace that.
Yep.
Thanks, Josh. I know Elaine's got a question, but Alan, have you got any thoughts on that? Alan from Foresight, if you get any.
I can find the mute button. Yeah, I think we just need to tell the story properly, and I think, you know, it was very easy to have Skyscanner doing what they did, you know, bringing Silicon Valley expertise in. I think what's happened in the last 10 years, we've been doing this for quite a long time. You know, I've been in the Edinburgh technology scene or marketing scene for about 20 years, and I think for the first 10 years there was nothing there, and then suddenly there was, you know, around 2010 Skyscanner started to grow. You know, there became an Edinburgh tech scene, and I think certainly we can see that from some of the talent that's on the market at the moment, and both in terms of its ability, but more in terms of its internationalization. I mean, in our business, we've 20 something people working out of the Edinburgh office at the moment, another 6 back in Northern Ireland. With just French, Greek, Italian, Spanish, Argentinian. You know, Edinburgh's just a hub. You know, it's a place that people want to come and live and work, and I think Skyscanner tapped into that very well. It's a very iconic place, and I think, you know, we should be able to leverage what Scotland gives the world in terms of its identity, but also in terms of its tourism. You know, because it's a very attractive place to come, and obviously it rains all the time, certainly in the West Coast. But I think we just need to get out there and tell the story. It's kind of like, you know, obviously being Irish as well. You know, the Irish are very good at going around the world, telling everybody how wonderful Ireland is, and everybody needs Irish, and the Scottish, in my mind, have never quite been as good as that. But I think we need to be telling that story. So I know I need to be, as I should have been last year, getting on a plane to the States and going telling a story about what we do and what the great stuff we do in Scotland, and getting a tartan suit or whatever. But it's that is what we need to be doing, is get out there and say, look, we had. I think when I first talked to Leslie and Josh about this, I was quite pissed off with the fact that it was you talked about ScotlandTech seeing and Traveltech, it was Skyscanner. So it's and talking to, if you all know Juliet Crichton as well, we had this thing that's like not just Skyscanner. There's actually a lot more good stuff going on here, and I've been quite astonished by there's 120 companies. It's a hell of it, and I didn't know who most of these people are. So tell the story.
Thanks, Alan. Elaine, have you got any questions for Elaine?
Yep, just a quick question for Elaine. You obviously mentioned COP26 and the fact that you're already doing work and planning around that event. What do you think the biggest opportunity from COP being here is for your business? Really to showcase just how good Scotland can be for adventure, but with low impact. So it's all low carbon tourism. So looking at what's out there, what activities can you do, and also responsible tourism, trying to there's when I was looking at road trips, for example, you've got the North Coast 500, and it's a route which everybody goes to, and internationally it's recognised, but there's so many other routes. So it's looking at how to also spread out tourism and take pressures off of other areas, and looking at these new kind of trips that people can do and feel safe to do it without that range anxiety. With the integration of the data which shows the electric vehicle points, so the charge points, to give you that certainty that it's nothing to worry about, and you can follow these routes. And yeah, and I think for the COP, really it's about low carbon tourism, EV tourism in Scotland. Great, thank you.
Sorry, Leslie, there's one more thing actually I would mention is in terms of investment. In my experience, Traveltech, the Scottish investment scene deals with a very wide range of businesses and sectors, and it takes quite a bit of time to get the expertise up on that. So it's the job of the Scottish travel tech companies probably to get out of that Scottish investment scene and then into the more specialist areas. But from our point of view, long story, but we built the business off the back of another one. So we've never had to go down that investment route, but I know at some point that we'll have to go out for investment, and it's far easier for me to try and explain what we do in the sector that we're in to people who invest in that space. And there's really, as far as I know, there's really not that many in Scotland. So therefore you're into London, or indeed you're into Europe or the US. And I do get contact from investors in Europe and the States. I don't tend to get too many from around here, because whenever you're, if you're pitching, you're having to explain a lot of basic concepts before you even get to the thing that you're about. Because they'll have seen a biotech company, and after it they'll have seen a fintech company, and it's just and I've been on the other side of the table. You can see the wide range of stuff in Scotland, so you really want to break out of that and go into the specialist verticals. I mean, we have a number of verticals we could have gone into, but we got traction in hotels, and that's not even that's not wide travel, that's hotels, and that's such a large vertical itself. We decided to go for depth. And you become an expert in the space, and that leads you to conversations and partners and vendors, and you start to spread. You start to find it's, the travel market's a global market, but you need to pick your specialist bit and just go straight into it, and then you can kind of widen out once you get past that. We're already doing service apartments and different types of accommodation now as well. So but it does take a bit of time to build that up. But if you're looking for investment, I suppose my advice would be, without doing down Scotland, the Scotland investment scene is nowhere going to go after you get the first round.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hopefully that marketing intelligence report start mapping it. You're absolutely right about it's a really thin but deep number of sort of investors who look at sort of travel tech. And yeah, you're right. London's got a huge amount of investment, and then there's a few hubs, but it's not this widespread thing. And I think getting outside of Scotland for investment is going to have to be a part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's critical, and at least in the case of London, you can say they look at you and go, "Oh, Skyscanner," and then there is a story there that you can leverage on. Yes, there's talent in the city that we could probably hire if you give us £2 million, whatever. So,
is there any more questions? Anybody got any more questions?
I had a question for Elaine, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I was reading. Electrek Explorer is deeply in my head at the moment, and I saw that there was a tipping point. There's an article in a few newspapers, I think a week ago, about electric vehicles hitting a tipping point to sort of mass consumer sort of ownership, which is really exciting. But I wanted to just sort of go back to the range anxiety problem and almost get your sense of where Scotland is, where the UK is, and how far away we currently are with charging points to be able to meet that sort of potential tipping point.
Yeah, so that's some of the data I'm looking at the moment. I'm looking at APIs, charge points, and hotel other service providers, looking at where there's gaps, where there could be EVs. So the data I'm gathering is there's interest for people that are doing charge point installations just now. So yeah, looking at those gaps at the moment.
I had a friend who drove up from Harrogate to Edinburgh and had a fun time trying to search for them. So I think that is a clear gap.
Yeah.
But,
one of the issues as well is that there's apps which can show you the charge points, but particularly if you want to see sites or find any other information of what's around you, that's not out there at the moment. So that's what we're looking to solve, is like, well, okay, so there's my charger, but where is anything else around that? Where is it that I want to go? Or is there something along the way or something I could do whilst my car is charging?
Yes, you're bringing it all together in one place, aren't you? Which is, yeah, that's amazing. Our neighbour just got an electric car, so there you go. It's happening. It's happening here in Musselburgh.
So, but that's us got to 7 o'clock. So, yeah, thanks, Hugo. Nice to see you. And thanks everyone for joining us. Have we got any more questions? Because we're conscious of people's time. We've managed to get to the end of January, which is an achievement in itself, I think. And it's been really nice to see people again and to have an event for Travel Massive Edinburgh. And obviously we want to have more. So, you know, if you've got, as we said, as we always say, if you've got ideas, if you've got feedback, if there's things that you want to do, things that you want to see, anything that we can do as communities and networks, then yeah, get in touch, and we can hope that you've made some connections this evening, and we can certainly we'll send out a follow-up mailer. Thanks, Emma, with the links for all the speakers, and yeah, really nice to see new faces as well. And the best thing about it is actually that we can connect with any of the Travel Massive community around the world. So that's a really cool thing. And even when we do, whatever happens, if we do get back to physical events, I think we'll be doing a lot more of this as well, just keeping the connections going. So I'm just checking the chat box to see if there's anything there.
Yeah, obviously there's loads of events going on around all the other chapters in Travel Massive, which are all online now as well. So you can obviously just sign up to those as well. There's some really interesting ones happening too. So definitely check out.
Hi there, could I ask a question?
Of course. Hi.
Hi, my name is Essen. I actually work for Turkish Airlines, completely random from everything that's been talked about tonight. Thank you for all the presenters. It was really interesting hearing different sides of travel, but I had a question for Elaine also. Now, to do with this app, is this currently kind of geared towards the UK consumer only? As an airline, of course, I have a completely different set of eggs in the basket for something like this, but is it directed at UK consumers at the moment?
Yeah, we're focused on that right now, but we're looking to expand out, particularly when we're looking at EV hire that's next to airports, so people can go on their journeys and then travel with electric vehicles after.
Okay, so that's kind of a later on development rather than something at the moment.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay, maybe time for dinner if you haven't had it already. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to Suze and Josh and Elaine, and thanks, Katie, for managing the questions. And nice to see everyone. And yeah, keep in touch, and hopefully we'll have another event soon. And yeah, you know, let us know what you want to do. Suze, have you got anything you want to add?
No, just thank you for hosting this evening so expertly as usual, Leslie.
Oh yeah, well, thanks for helping me out with the link. And we're all a bit evented out. We've had quite a few. We've had quite a few in the last couple of weeks, so forgive us if we've been a little bit what's the word? Evented out. That's my new word. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks everybody.
Everyone.
See you
Bye.
soon. Bye. Cheers. Bye.